हेलो, किधर है डुप्लीकेट आवाज? हेलो 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 हेलो, माइक चेक. हेलो हेलो, सेकंड स्लाइड. हेलो हेलो, BP Lubricant India Town Hall, 16th October 2018. Hello. Hello. Can you hear us? Hello. Hello. सुभाष. हां, आता ते बॅकड्रॉप पण काढायला लावला मला. कोणती लाईन? हॅलो, हां बोला ना. कोण? लॅम्पचं नाही, तो माझ्या. हां, थोडा वेळ ना. हळूहळू, कारण का बॅकड्रॉप पण काढून टाकला मी आता. हां, आता सेट झालं आहे. म्हणजे जसा मंदिर थोडा थोडा मुवमेंट होईल ना, तसा तसा तो कॅमेरा मुवमेंट होईल थोडाफार. ओके, थोडा स्लो मोशनमध्ये एकदम. नाही करायला सांगू का? कारण का मंदिर परत इकडनं तिकडनं फिरत राहील ना एकदम असं. हां, कॅमेरा मग तसं त्याला सांगतो की जसं मंदिर जसं जसं फिरेल ना तसं मग त्याला कॅच कर म्हणून. ओके, हां तेच. ओके ओके चालेल. हां, येस, इंडियन टाउन हॉल. कोणता? हा आता सेंटरचा लावला प्रोजेक्टर मी. कोणता? PPT मोठीचा आहे, व्हिडिओ मोठा नाही. काय करू? चालेल, एक मिनट. अरविंद, वीडियो बड़ा करो मेरा. कोणाला? ना फुकटचा ऐन टायमाला भांडायला सुरुवात करते. एवढे दिवस कॉल केला नाही मला. मग तेच सर. हां, मग ते डायरेक्ट बोलला, मी बोलणार होतो, मी निघून जातो इकडनं. कारण का इकडे सगळे BPM होते कॅस्ट्रॉलवाल्याने, त्यांच्या पुढ्यात बडबडलं त्याला. मग चालेल चला. बाय. कोणता? हां चालेल, व्हिडिओ व्हिडिओ बडा रखना. ओके, कारण का PPT स्लाइड्समध्ये एवढं काय नाही त्याच्यामध्ये लिहिलेलं, नॉर्मलच आहे. ओके चालेल. हां हां, कोणती PPT आहे त्याच्याकडे? त्याला अजून शेअर करायला नाही सांगितलं मी ती. कोणती? मग मी फक्त बॅकड्रॉप आहे ना एक PPT मध्ये मी ॲड केला आहे, तो फक्त लावायला सांगतो. बॅकड्रॉप फक्त कॅस्ट्रॉल कॅस्ट्रॉल दिसतंय का? ओके, हां तीच PPT मध्ये ठेवलं मी तो. ओके चल. ओके चल. फर्स्ट स्लाइड. चल. हेलो, वॉइस क्लियर है ना? वॉइस क्लियर है ना? वॉइस. हां. हां, चॅट चेक करते मी, बसतो पाठीमागे आणि चेक करतो एकदा. ओके, स्लाइड स्लाइड. प्रणिताला देतो मग मी चॅट. नाही, ती माझ्या बाजूलाच बसेल पाठीमागे एकदम. ओके चालेल. चल, वॉइस क्लियर आहे ना? ओके चालेल. बाय. हां, ते सगळे चेक करतात एकदा. हां ओके, बाकीचे माईक आहेत पाठीमागे आहेत ठेवलेले आहेत, चेक करतो मी. सगळ्या माईकवरनं टेस्ट करतो मी. काय इश्यू असेल तर मला जरा कॉल करा मोबाईलवर. ओके चल. स्लाइड 1 पे ही है ना? स्लाइडर किधर? स्लाइडर. थोड़ा सा मूवमेंट करते रहना, फास्ट मूवमेंट मत करना, जो नॉर्मल रहेगा ना वही। ओके, ये हो गया। और एक चीज़, रमेश हैंड माइक ले ले और वहाँ से बात कर ले। हाँ,
हेलो टेस्टिंग।
या क्लियर है।
हेलो। हेलो टेस्टिंग।
ओके,
हेलो।
दूसरा दे माइक। 2 नंबर। हेलो हेलो। ओके, हेलो माइक चेक। हेलो। ओके, हेलो हेलो। ओके, और एक कलर माइक। फटाफट माइक चेंज कर।
ये भी चेक करेंगे।
आई थिंक इसकी ज़रूरत नहीं है मुझे, हैंड माइक में। नंबर 9 है।
बोलो।
हेलो हेलो हेलो।
वो कहाँ में चले जा रहा है, किधर गया ये रमन। एक साउंड पे माइक
चलो नहीं,
माइक चालू करना हो।
वो वाली कौन सी है?
ये खा पी के आ गया, तुम लोग वेट कर रहे हो।
खा के आ गया?
चालू अगर बच्चा एक ही बोला तो 1 सेकंड
सर 1 सेकंड बोलिए।
हेलो हेलो।
अभी नहीं आया पावर।
पावर नहीं आया उसको। सर बोलिए बोलिए।
हेलो 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 हेलो। ओके, हेलो।
सर
या ओके,
अजुल का है?
थैंक्स। तू पहले माया माइक लगा, पहले बोलो उसको, मुझे आएगा नहीं लगा।
मैं लगा दूँ।
यहाँ पर ही लगा।
अजुल चेक करेंगे सर, एक बाकी है।
वो लगा कितने हैंड माइक कितना लग गया?
इसका लाया हूँ आपको
बोला था मैं 4 लाख लगा दूँ।
बोला था।
हेलो माइक चेक। हेलो, यही दे देना। हेलो। ओके, यही देना, ये और वो, ये ज़्यादा।
सर्वर म्यूट कर दो।
Hello. हाँ.
Because this is a specific class, right?
Okay, so we don't have to announce for him to come. I'll just. Oh, then Pranav,
I don't know.
you're loud enough? Okay, so do this. Go ahead and do the second one. Yeah. उनको जरूरत लगे.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Pranav. I'll take 1 minute of yours for the safety briefing. So before I resume on the same, the venue which you are sitting at is called Italia. Which is at the lower basement. Basement. And the room, in case of any emergency, in case you have to evacuate from this venue, we are having a female speaker here, which will announce in case of any emergency. The nearest safety center area and the look towards that is the behind door, which as I said, right outside. That will lead you towards the parking area, car parking area, and then from the car parking area towards the taxi stand, which is the nearest safety area. Alternative route towards another safety area is the main lobby, which we have just come across. Same path towards the main porch. From main porch to the guest car parking area, which is the second safety area. In case of any fire emergency, we are equipped with smoke detectors and the studio system, which is in place, and as well as we are having a fire hydrant and swimming pool behind, which is provided by the emergency as per as possible using a very easy. Thank you. Our emergency number is 3 from our south area, in case of one area, which is 991, and immediately the same for us. We wish to our rescue system. No bunker is planned. Now that is no bunker. Whatever happens, it will come back in case any emergency. Thank you.
So we still have 3 minutes before the others join, so it's a bit early.
Should we pre-call informal conversation? Is that what they do on the TV?
Yeah. Before the last television. So we have
Yeah, that's one of the traits. Big believer in that.
they're very punctual with their sales numbers, so I know that they're going to do it with Q4. That's fine. So
Which way is this?
Next
Forward, back. Okay.
we have mandate, we have the entire regional office as well as the sales team. So while we're waiting, maybe a good idea for people to just introduce themselves and
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, be good.
in this time?
Myself, Alagraja, technical service analyst, working for both North and East region, looking
Right.
after North and East region.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, myself, Ajay Khar. I'm a key account manager of Faridabad region.
Okay.
I am Deepak Agrawal, I distributed business manager for Northern region in indirect.
Okay.
I am Gaurav Patel, logistics executive North Region. Logistics executive North Region.
Okay.
I am Rajat Gupta. I am the regional manager for heavy duty business for North and East India.
Okay. Okay, all right.
I'm Amitabh Singhal, and I'm looking after the workshop business in Northern region.
All right.
I am Harish Suri, working here in Northern region, looking for VAT area and the GST is now part of the testing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm Biresh. I look after the B2C business for North.
Good to see Biresh again.
I'm Kavita. I handle the administration part for the North.
Right, great.
Hi, I'm Devyani. I take care of Rajasthan West as the regional manager.
Okay, good.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jatin and I'm looking after channel sales distributor business manager for industrial for Punjab.
Right, okay.
Good afternoon, this is Ashish Gupta, distributor business manager, technical industrial part of North.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Shruti Shukla. I'm the HR advisor for North Industries.
Right, okay.
Hi, Jagdish Malik. I look after the B2C business for Western UP and Uttarakhand.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Aditya Dasa. I look after the B2C business for Punjab.
And Subramaniam, working for CSMP, Sam.
Okay.
Vin Sharma, I'm the product specialist for industry.
Hi, I'm Vivek Singh and I'm the key account manager for Gurgaon.
Okay.
Hi, this is Sridhar. I'm part of the
Yeah, we Chaudhary, general manager for CMS and also supporting industry service.
Great.
Hi, I'm Manupma Solanki. I'm looking after workshop business for Delhi and Bangalore.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sandeep. I'm looking after Delhi and Haryana as a workshop specialist.
All right. Okay.
Hi, I'm Raj Kamal Singh. I'm looking after on-road OEM space for the North.
Okay, good.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hardik Patel, based out at North region, and I'm taking care of OEM team, North region.
Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Ritika, joined as HSSC Tag North Industries.
Okay. That's it, everybody, is it? Great. And do you all know each other? Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's yeah, it's, sort of helpful. Ram, do you know everybody?
No.
Okay. Do you know Ram? You guys? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Because otherwise, I'm going to get him to introduce himself and.
Yeah, I can still do that. We spend that 1.5 minutes.
Yeah. How are we doing time-wise? 3 minutes. Ram, you better tell them about what we're doing in marketing at the minute.
That will be for the Q&A.
Okay, well, that as well.
Right. Anyway, before we launch, I think it's great fun to be here. I mean, it's a long time since I've come to Delhi from a Castrol point of view. And it's a long time since I've been here, so it's a pleasure to meet you all. I was delighted to see the team, the smiles, and also the women sales managers. I think that's a change. And this is my 25th year in Castrol, and I started my life in 1994 as a sales manager in the southern region. So it gives me extra joy whenever I come here and see all the progress which you and Omer are making in the country. So really pleased to be here.
Good stuff.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I think this is a great pleasure and honor to have Mandir Singh, the CEO of BP Lubricants, as well as Ram Chandra, the Global Marketing Chief, here with us in Delhi. And actually, not only these two distinguished guests, we had also Bob Dudley and Dev Sanyal in Delhi this week. So it's been a really VIP week for Delhi. And I think it's also great that the entire CLT is here. And we're having, I think Kavita was confirming that this is the first time we're having a town hall in Delhi with an SBU leader, as well as the global marketing chief, as well as the entire CLT together. And we have the privilege that we have, I think, 7 sites connected, Padalganga, Silvassa, Silvertopia, TKP, Chennai, as well as Calcutta, joining through the webcast. I hope that the system is working. So if they have the questions, they will be able to put it online.
Right.
So hopefully they'll be able to do that, and they'll see the slides as well. But it's a great honor to have Mandya here. This is the third time he's been in the last 3 years, and we had the pleasure of taking both Mandya and Ram through the India story in what we've been through in the last 3 years in terms of the transformation that we've been through. And I think, well, hopefully Mandya will also reflect on this morning in his speech. But without further ado, he's been a great supporter of the India business. It's a great pleasure to invite Mandya to share the context. Thank you, Mandya.
Great, Omar. Thank you very much for that kind invitation and introduction. And so Ram and I are both really delighted to be here. And I think me particularly. And it's, you know, I love coming to India. I really do. You know, I'm from India originally. And over the past few months, Ram and I have been, along with the rest of the leadership team, we've been on the sort of, you know, health, fitness drive and trying to get fitter. And, you know, we've lost some weight as part of that process. But I just, in the toilets, in the male toilets here, there is a weighing machine. So I couldn't resist having been day 2 in India to weigh myself. And I think I put on 2 kilograms in 2 days. So that's a bit worrying, and I'd said to them I haven't had a chance for, and apologies for those on the call as well who aren't Indian, who don't understand the concept of aloo parotas, but they organised one for me at lunchtime, so I said it's not a great thing to go into a town hall after having an aloo parota, okay, but I know my weight's gone up 2 kilograms in 2 days, a bit worrying. No, really great to be here, and as always, very informal. I have 5 or 6 slides, which somebody's put together, which we can use if we need them. But for me, what I find is whenever I come to India, the conversation and the questions are the hardest we ever get. And if you remember my philosophy, all the hard questions Ram will answer, and all the more easier ones I will attempt to do them. And if there's anything more strategic, we'll get Omar to stand up to answer those as well. So we'll follow that same routine. But no, I think the chances for you guys, we have about an hour, something like that. But really, you know, whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to ask, as I was saying to the CLT earlier today, unfortunately, regrettably, I don't get the chance to go out as much these days to see the markets as I would love to do. So, you know, when I do get there, I want to use the time to talk to people and hear and listen to you guys. So that's why my bit I'll keep fairly short, and we can expand on any one of the slides that you see. But really, I want to hear from you guys. And also, yeah, as Omar says, as much as I like Mumbai, you know, I love to be in Delhi as well. And it's that much nearer to where my parents sort of spend their winters as well. So let's go with that way. So we've got a few slides. Let me, first of all, if this thing works. Okay. I think there's probably a slide for each one of these headers. So what we'd like to do is talk a little bit about lubricants performance. I'll talk about the SPU, and then also a little bit about India. You guys know all about the India performance, but I'll just touch on a couple of things. And then I want to talk a little bit about safety, and then talk about some highlights from the Indian business. We'll cover people and D&I, and then you know, ethics and compliance, and anything else you want to talk about, and we'll sort of pick that as up. So if I start first of all with the sort of financial performance, and for those of you, some of you were on the call yesterday that I did. I think there is some mistake in the colors, even these two, which Omar pointed out to me. I'll ask you guys to work out where the mistake is. If we look at our performance sort of year to date, if we sort of go through to end September, first of all, at an SPU level, it's been tough. It's been a tough year for us, because if you look at a number of things, first of all, the raw material costs. If you look at what's happened to the oil price, you know, when we first, Ram and I did the presentation to the investors 12, 18 months ago, Ram, now, something like that. And at the time, you know, the oil price was about $50, $55. You know, it's now at the minute something like $80, $85 today. So every $5 that the oil price goes up, that impacts our business from a raw materials price increase of about $70 million. Okay, so you can do the sums very easily in terms of the impact. But we have lots of ways to offset that. We do a lot of pricing actions and look at our sort of rebates and discount sort of structures, a host of other things as well. But that's, for us, has been a bit of a headwind in many of our markets this year. The second part for us is around, and for you particularly here in India, is the foreign exchange, sort of exchange rates. And I think it's 70 plus to the dollar today, and that again impacts our business. And especially if you're, and that affects our currency sort of transactional impact. And if you're buying in euros or in dollars, and your currency is weakening, that has an impact as well. So that's quite, tens of millions of dollars is what it impacts our business. And then that then leads in many places where you have a model of sort of distributor type model, you will get some credit issues potentially with certain distributors as well in terms of managing that credit exposure. But given all of that, I think the way that we as an organization have reacted to that has been first class. And there's nobody in this business, in any market, I don't think, is giving less than 150%. Okay, everybody's working really hard. We still get lots and lots of customer recognition and customer acquisitions. I hear some of them. There's many more. Whenever I go to the markets, we go through them, and the brand is still very strong. Okay, and if you go back to what our sort of competitive advantage is, it's about the strength of our brand, it's the strength of our sort of differentiated technology, and it's our relationships. And we've got to make sure we keep investing in those three areas as we go forward. So it's been a tough sort of first 9 months, and you can see that in terms of the reds. In fact, this cash cost should be red as well. This is against last year, so our performance against last year is not where we want it to be. But again, we need everyone to give them their best shot over to the end of the year, because, and again, we spend a lot of time thinking about, how are we perceived not only internally but also externally as well, because people look at us and think from an investment perspective, they're not interested about any internal issues we have, whether you're complex or there's functional issues. What they want to know is, do I invest my money in Castrol or BP, or do I invest it in somebody else? So that's, the investor community is very cold. There's no emotion, it's pure fact. And what we need to do is make sure we're showing year-on-year growth. Okay, that's what they look at. For companies that are showing year-on-year growth, they'll invest in it. So we, globally, we've got more work to do as an organization. But then when I look at where India is here today, we had a time ridiculously this morning. I think we did 2 or 3 hours with the team. We just got into the exciting areas and then we had to stop, So I think there's some great stuff happening in India. When I look, and we'll show a couple of slides there, but certainly when we look at your performance against last year, on I think 3 out of the 4 measures, you're certainly ahead. And being a growth market, I wouldn't expect you to be really ahead of last year on cash costs, because we need to invest in these markets. So other than that, I think you should also be proud, given you went through last year. First of all, if you remember the whole demonetization piece that you had, the GST piece, and trying to respond to all of that. And I think the way, Omar and the leadership team, and it was really great to spend some time with them this morning, how you guys are showing up, how you're showing up as an organization as well, for me is really exemplary to the rest of the SPU. And as I said on the call a couple of days ago, I try and avoid picking out individuals or markets, because for me everybody works really hard, everybody's giving it their best, and that way you leave people out. But I can't help but do that this year, because when I look at how in India, in Turkey, and in Australia, how these 3 markets, and they've been under the same pressures as everybody else. So Forex and India heavily, if you look at the raw materials costs as well. But you guys have shown how to react, how to respond to these sort of challenges, and I think you should also be very proud of that. So a lot of great performance, great initiatives, and all down to how you work as a team. And again, one of the slides that the guys showed this morning was your conference from like 2 years ago, and having everybody there, everybody being part of one team, coming up and looking at the challenges, how do we respond to them? That is how you win. Okay, that's what a winning mentality looks like. It's having problems. There'll always be problems. Okay, because we cannot dictate what the competitors are going to do. We cannot dictate what the environment's going to do. But what we can be in control of is our destiny in terms of what we decide to do. And I think how you guys have stepped up, you should all be very proud of that. And for me, nothing more important than looking at the safety agenda. And when I look at it, first of all, from a global perspective, we have injured 16 people this year. So 16 people have come to work and not got home in the same way that they came to work. And of those, 10 were contractors, 6 were our employees. For me, that's irrelevant. Everybody who comes to work for us is part of our family. And we had 16 injuries. And to be honest, most of those were preventable. Most of those was as a result of situational or lack of awareness in the situation, and there were minor injuries, cuts and bruises and catching fingers in, and I think those could have been avoided. Okay, the majority of those could have been avoided. First quarter, all saying that, I think our recordable injury rate is getting better. It's nowhere near where we want to be. We want to have 0 injuries. We don't want anybody to get injured who comes to work for us. But from having 8 in the first quarter to, actually it was 8-3, and then the third quarter was 5, there is some work to go, but we are sort of trending in the right direction. I think most of you would have heard about the very sad occurrence we had in the US. One of our contractor drivers lost their lives. Really tough, and but it just brings back home that you can't be pleasant in any way at any time at all. And for us, driving safety is our biggest hazard. We're doing a lot of work on that globally. We're doing a lot of work on that in India as well. And again, I was really impressed to see this morning through some of the statistics, and the one that really stuck out for me, the guy shared the chart is with the sort of, you have the deviations, which everybody's aware of if you're a professional driver in terms of acceleration, deceleration, and to be at, I think, Mabini will correct me, I think you're at 0.01, which is something like 3 deviations per 10,000, which is unbelievable. And again, given the road conditions in India, I'm amazed that there isn't more incidents. If I look at the lack of discipline of people driving on the road, and now you're getting even more cars on the road, you have to be even more careful. But I think it's a great tribute to everybody, not only the HSA but the whole organisers, and how you guys have stepped up to that. And again, as I said, I'm making an exception. I don't like to point people out, but I think we have Ritesh I think he's now done 5 years, 100,000 kilometers without a deviation. That is unbelievable. I think he needs to go and teach my daughter how to drive, because that, for me, that's what we should be aspiring to do. Every one of us should be aspiring to do, and I think Ritesh should be extremely proud of his achievement. But not only that, from what I'm hearing, is that he's genuinely passionate about driving safety. He's going out, sharing experiences with third parties. When you get that level of passion, that's when you see a step change in performance. And if you take that to everything else you do, you will get that extraordinary performance. The other person I need to also highlight is Sandeep. And I think, again, he's an electrical engineer at a power plant. And again, in terms of thinking ahead, thinking about how to reduce the amount of time and the potential risk of going up and down a ladder to turn switches off, to come and put that in place, I think that is very, very proactive, and again, something that we should be very proud of. And then not forgetting the Golden Peacock Award that we've got as well in India. That's 2 years running at least that you guys have done that. So be proud, but don't be complacent, okay? Because given the environment that you guys operate on, it just takes one sort of moment just forgetting that can suddenly change all of that. And especially with driving safety, the consequence of that, we've seen what the consequences can that be in the US, and I really would like that. I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody in our organization. So if I let me just talk for a second about on the people agenda. Again, Maria talked this morning about the really wonderful stuff you guys are doing around sort of D&I. It's tough. I think in some of we have quite a few salespeople. We have 3 plants here as well, and certainly on a gender basis, to try and get certainly females to work in some of those environments is tough. It is tough, and I understand that, I acknowledge that. But what we do need to do, which is what I think the team are doing, is understand what are the roles where we can try and get more females coming through. Okay, I think we really need to get into that level of detail, because you guys are doing a good job, but still there's more to do in India. There is more to do on the D&I agenda. The one that, for me, I'm particularly interested in is around the whole respect and inclusion. And, it's important to get diversity of thought, but it's also important to respect different people's opinions, okay? Only when you do that will you get a much better outcome. I've seen it firsthand many, many times, wherever sort of teams that I've been working in, where you get diverse teams, where you listen to each other, genuinely listen, not have your unconscious biases, you will get a better result, okay? That's fact. And it's something that I think as an organization we need to make sure we continue to do much more of that. In terms of highlights, this doesn't in any way show the great stuff that you guys are doing in India. In terms of, I saw you had just recently, I think Rajiv talked about the Mahindra deal, which again is a big team effort from many, many people. I think it's the beginning of a bigger opportunity for you guys. Just in terms of a lot of IWS has been added, but the one I particularly sort of enjoyed listening today, something we need to take to other parts of the world, is what you do on the mechanics, and the super mechanic. That's what it's called, Ram? The super mechanic piece.
Connect is the app, but super mechanic is the content.
It's a content. I think that's brilliant. I really do. If we could take that globally, that would be a very, very powerful tool for us to do that. But again, the creativity that comes out of the Indian business is just first class. We just need to share that with other markets, and how do we take it forward. But just 2 or 3 examples. There's many, many more examples that we heard today, and there's many more, I'm sure, that I don't get told of that you guys are doing. So keep doing what you're doing. You're obviously doing the right things, and it's making a big impact on your business as well. The slides are in all sorts of order, but if I just want to talk very briefly about sort of speak up as well, and this is the other piece. Globally and also from a downstream perspective, the number of sort of incidents that we're getting on ethics and compliance in certain areas, certainly around harassment, some of them are increasing. We are seeing an extreme, and for me, it comes back to the respect inclusion agenda as well. I really do want people to step up. This is our business, all part in it. I really need people to step up, and if there's anything that they see that's not working, I would really like people to speak up. It's easy for me to stand up and say that. It takes a lot from individuals, because sometimes people fear of reprisals, of the sort of discrimination, but whatever form it takes for people to raise any issues, I generally want people to really do that, okay? Because that makes us stronger as a business. It makes us much more competitive as a business as well. And we have to create that environment. It's not going to be created by me standing up here and talking about it. It's going to be created by how you guys show up, the behaviors that you demonstrate as leaders, and that will then allow for the rest of the organizations really to bring out anything they want to raise. So again, happy to take any questions on this area as well. This may be the last slide, and then we'll open it for questions. Again, as I've gone round and I talked about cyber, I think I talked to you guys last time about cyber as well. The potential impact on our business through cyber is huge. Okay, from just people not having the right passwords and on their phones and on their laptops. The cyber criminals are getting extremely smart out there, okay? And especially when you get a lot of these phishing attacks, there's so many of them. If you actually look on the on the BP, and there was a cybersecurity session last week, is that they're getting so sophisticated in the phishing attacks, and we have so many employees around the world. It's easy. All they need to get in once, and then, to get into our businesses, there's some potential big risks for us, And if you can imagine, we operate in some hazard environments, not necessarily in Luz, but other parts of the BP. So, you just have to be so careful in terms of potential cyber attacks. And if somebody's offering you an iPhone, it is not true, okay? Nobody gives you a free iPhone. So do not click on anybody saying to you, click here and you'll get a free iPhone, okay? Life isn't as simple as that. But, I jest in that. But this is a serious subject for us. And I would ensure that I don't know what your percentage is in terms of people who completed the cyber challenge. But I would strongly encourage you guys to do that. And it's just a good learning tool. It sort of highlights some of the things you have to be aware of. Even just traveling on papers, we all read. I have lots of papers to read. A lot of them marked confidential and secret. And you can so easily leave stuff lying around. So I strongly encourage people not to read stuff when they're traveling on trains and on planes, because a number of times I sit on a plane and I look to see what the person's reading on his laptop. It's scary, so you have to really be careful, because people are getting much more sort of sophisticated out there. I think it's a cue. But that's all I was going to say. Look, I'll ask Ram if anyone, do you want to talk about anything, or we wait till the Q&A side of it. But, for me, it is always great to be here in India. I think you guys have had, given everything that you face in the environment, I think you've had a super year. Don't get complacent. You've still got another 3 months to go. The Forex is not in your favor. Great for those coming to India and you have to exchange sterling into rupees. But not so good if you're in the local market and trying to sell. But I think the way you guys have responded as a team, how you stepped up to that challenge of being one team, all with the same aim. Doesn't matter where you're sitting, doesn't matter what job you're doing. Every one of you has a big role to play. Every one of you is important to the success of India and to the SPU. So never forget that. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done for India and for the SPU. And it makes me very proud to be here. So with that, we're going to open up and take any questions, whether from you guys here or from the line as well, yeah? How do you want to play this? Are we going to just, who's coordinating the questions?
So you raise the questions
on there.
From the northern team.
This one there.
Oh, sorry.
Hi. We now clearly see that EV threat is around the corner, and brand has lived for 100 years. And do we get to see in near future Castrol brand getting a brand extension or a diversification for this brand to go beyond next 100 years?
Ram? We get this question, it's a great question. It's a great question. We get this asked at every town hall, external event that they ask us, and we need to have a position on it.
Yeah. Thanks, Mandir. Great question. I mean, Castrol has been around for 117 years, Dilnas.
Why are you looking at Dilnas?
Because
she's not that old.
So I think it's an important sort of necessity that we keep the brand going, and we are all conscious of electrification, and we all know that when electrification is complete, when all cars become electric, all trucks become electric, and all bikes become electric, the lubricant quantity will be hardly 20% of or 25% of what it is today. Basically transmission and greases. So in our growth strategy, we are addressing that question, okay? And we are addressing it in terms of horizons. So when you look at the first 5 or 10 years, okay, there is virtually no risk to the lubricant business. Okay? There are 1 billion cars on the roads of the world, okay? And in the next 15 years, another billion is expected to be added between all the markets, okay? Of which, okay, the electrification is expected to be about 5 to 10% in terms of park, not in terms of sales. Sales will be higher. So even in 2030, for example, there will be a significantly large vehicle population which will be consuming lubricants. So that's fact. Okay? So one part of our business will continue to drive growth in lubricants. Now there are other problems in this area about business models changing, channel structures are changing, margin compression, OEMs wanting to take a higher share of the business. We have other existential problems which are much, much quicker and much more serious than electrification. So we are focusing a lot on these areas. Okay? Now in terms of your second question about diversification, knowing that in 20 years there may be not much of, or 30 years there may not be much of lubricants, what we are talking about is an adjacency strategy, which means making money in businesses just outside lubricants. So for example, vehicles will continue, vehicle maintenance will continue. Okay? So moving into that space is one area we are definitely looking at. The second area is industrial lubrication, and we are just scratching the surface of industrial business across the world. So widening our portfolio, both in the commercial vehicle, CVO, you are very strong in India, but globally we are not very big. So widening our footprint in CVO, growing industrial, and moving into adjacencies. That would be the shape of the strategy for the next 10 to 15 years, 20 years. In the meanwhile, BP at the downstream level is looking at a lot of initiatives in the area of mobility. So what is the electrification play? Castrol will, in my view, for the next few years, not be an electric company. But BP can be and will be. We have just acquired a fast charging company called ChargeMaster in the UK. So we are getting into that sort of space. So imagine as this thing goes around the world, the company will be looking for brand to have some of these value propositions. And if it fits with the personality of the Castrol brand, some of these offers will come under Castrol. Some will continue to be in BP. But the good news is that BP as a company, with its portfolio of BP, Castrol, Aral, is looking at the future of both mobility as well as fluids. So I wouldn't really worry about it. India is battleground because lots of changes are happening in India. The EV scooter is a good example, but business model changes are likely to be bigger. So we were having a conversation in the CLT this morning. I was saying, how are we going to respond to the business model changes in the country? Anything else to add?
No, it's good. Thank you. Any other questions, guys?
So this year we've seen quite a bit of a product mix change in our portfolio, and gaps have been filled, especially with the respect to the new products. So it'll be really interesting to know if there is something similar happening in some other country in India, apart from India.
Apart from India, only I can answer. I was hoping to nicely pass it on to Kedar, but no. Right. The answer is yes. I mean, what we found is that in the last 10 years or so, we have reduced our product footprint. Because of various rationalization programs, we cut back. And we are beginning to see that there are some gaps emerging in the portfolio. If we are a lubricant major, then our products should be applicable to at least 9 out of 10 vehicles on the road. Okay. So when we do that analysis, we are finding that there are significant gaps in the portfolio, primarily in Europe. So we are doing a lot of work in Europe to fill the product portfolio. And therefore the product pipeline coming for the next 2 years will be a lot of gap fillers. Okay, things which we don't have, we'll fill in. Plus we are also finding some new segments. For example, the hybrid market. Okay, the hybrid cars are growing exponentially across the world. So we just launched our hybrid variant in China. Okay, then SUV is a big sort of market developing. So under the Magnatech brand, we launched the SUV variant. So, and you know all about active scooter and stuff like that. So we are consciously looking at what are the opportunities coming up in the market and plugging those opportunities. That does not, the idea has not changed. In different markets, we'll be doing different things because the park will be different.
Thank you.
So you have mentioned about very high focus on the industrial business. So there are two parts in this. So how do you see the industrial business shaping up in the next 5 years? And second is that as you have mentioned that a lot of things are coming as per the European market, the new products and the new segments. But if you see the manufacturing facilities from Europe and US have mostly migrated to India and the Asia Pacific countries. So is there any new segments which you feel that industrial is still having gaps and you try to fill them with some of the new products which are there and we have the gaps?
The honest answer, I don't know 100%. But we have an industrial strategy which basically says that we remember 555, okay? 5 sectors, 5 product groups, and 5 countries. Okay, very simple, easy to understand. Okay, and in that we are trying to see how can we raise our market share from 2 or 3% globally to at least double digit over the next 10 years. That itself will drive our growth. But in terms of specific products, I think the XBB range, okay, is the one which we are banking on quite a bit in terms of immediate growth. The second area is high performance lubricants. Mandir and I had gone to meet somebody regarding an acquisition, and we discovered that one of our competitors actually sells 4x. We sell about 35 million liters of HPL, both greases and gear oils, OptiGear and all that stuff, and this company sells 140, okay, and makes the same unit margins, which is about $3 per liter, as we do. So what will it take for us to not go to 140 or whatever, but can we sell 20% more, 30% more? That itself will be a big driver of performance and these are the markets where we're getting growth, especially wind and anywhere where there is a rotating equipment, okay, cement, mining, you're seeing lots of applications. So that's a gap area for us. One area is capability. We need sales people who have the value selling and technical selling capability to sell these products. The second is the products themselves. That is the easy part, okay, but the sales capabilities are tougher. So we'll have to do some investment ahead of the curve to try and get there. But those are the big areas which I can think of. And the second area is services. So we are just beginning to work on the condition monitoring of metalworking fluids on the machine itself. So how do you ensure the quality of the coolant coming onto the machine is optimum level? So we are putting sensor based technologies so that now today what happens, the operator goes and tops up or not depending on the requirement. We are finding a way of saying without the human hand touching it, can we have a top up and optimization of the coolant. So there's some very cool stuff which you're working on. Maybe in the next couple of years you'll see some of them rolling out into the marketplace. And that is at the moment with the boss for investment approval. So I'm I'm putting him on a spot, of course. So a lot of activity and a lot of possibilities in industrial.
So the rust preventers and the deformation fluids and the greases, so they also form one of the important part of the entire industrial portfolio. And I just wanted to seek your inputs that these are the product segments which are going to remain in future also, even if the EVs are there. So yes, they will be there in the system. So
they're all electrification proof. Yeah, you're right.
So, but only thing is that in our the 555 strategy, these parts are even though greases are there, but rust preventants and deformation fluids are not there. So do you have any plans, to take them also?
Wrong person to answer that question. Okay. So I mean, if you have material businesses, okay, and if it is profitable, okay, we will always address these requests. But we will not say, okay, I'm getting into rust preventives all over the world. Then we will very quickly reach a situation where we'll have to do another pop and reduce all the SKUs by 40%, because we very often sell small quantities, low margin, not worth it. So if there's material businesses profitable, absolutely yes, we'll go for it.
Thank you.
Hi Ram. So my answer should come from the finance team. How do you see the viewpoint of the new investor investing in Castrol?
How do you see the
stock price is coming down every day? No investor, new investor, how do you see their mood to invest in Castrol stocks, in fact?
Yeah, no, we are having these same conversations at the minute, is that we have to put together, and then for new investor, just read downstream.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't need to be anybody else. You know, when we look at let me start with the group. You know, the capex that as we do the 2019 plan, when we look at the capex that we want, both upstream and downstream, when you add it up, it is more than the financial framework for the group. Okay, so we have more opportunities than we can actually sort of fund. So that's the first one. So if you're sitting on the main board of BP and you see oil price at $85, then you think, well, do we put our money into upstream projects, which are expensive but big material returns, you know, or do we put our money into downstream projects, which have now got a track record of the last few years of delivery? That's the first decision. Then let's say for 1 minute they decide to go, okay, we'll keep going in downstream. Then on downstream, you know, which we sit down on the set, our downstream capex requests are maybe 20% more than what we can afford to do as a downstream business. So I have to go in, and I've already asked for twice as much capex than we've had in the previous 3 years. So our 2019 capex requirements, if you have a guess at how much money we're asking for, it's, you know, north of $300 million for capex, okay, for loops. But the question they then ask is, okay, so do we invest in lubricants, or do we put our money into retail, where, you know, overnight, if you buy a chain of retail service stations, you change the pole sign to BP, day 2 you'll start the money coming in. For us it takes longer, okay, depending on where we invest. So these are the sort of the questions that we get now looking at a downstream perspective. And what we have to do is put forward sort of compelling options. Now, some of them are in year, but for us that's harder unless it's organic growth. For us to look at inorganics that pay in year 1 are difficult to find. But then if we start looking at sort of years 3 to 5, we have some options and opportunities, and I think we need to put those forward. And some industrial opportunities that Ram talked about, we looked at a few. We'd like to look at some CVO opportunities to strengthen our position in the CVO side. But also then what's happening, again, we started a conversation this morning, but only for 5 minutes, around, and this is for me really exciting, is the adjacencies and looking longer term and the role of digital and sort of intelligent operations on businesses as well. You know, automation, there's a lot of stuff happening. You know, Ram talked about predictive maintenance, but also need to look at robotics and things. There's a lot of stuff which is relevant for supply chain and for sales and marketing. So there's a lot, but we have to make sure that our cases stand up. And to do that, you have to have a track record, okay? If you have a track record, and the last couple of years, you know, our track record, and we can, I mean, I can stand up and say, oh, yes, it's because of cost of goods and this and that and currencies, but say, okay, great, in which case we'll put the money somewhere else until you've got better cost of goods and better currency. But we've got to find a way to be more proactive and manage through the cycle. So one thing that I think Rita and Pet Chems have done really well last couple of years. You know, they had a burning platform 3 years ago. Their returns was 6-8%. They're double digit now. And because previously in Pet Chems it was always cyclical. You know, everything was cyclical. Every 5 years you went down and people would sort of invest in the down cycle and come up. What she and her leadership team have managed to do is show that even in the down cycle they can get good returns, okay, by looking at, and a lot of their products, you know, I think they won't mind me saying this on the whole, other than PTR, is very commodity products. So with commodity products, it's even harder to win. I don't think we're there. I don't think we're there at all. I think we've got, you know, really great premium power brands, and we need to keep investing in them. So I think it's for us to be proactive, be on the front foot. This is what you guys are in India. I just need that replicating in 19 other countries, and then we'll be in a better position. So that's where I would be. I think we need to come up with those. There's some, I mean, we haven't got the time to do. There's some great opportunities, as Ram was saying. You know, what we're looking at in terms, we made a number of acquisitions in some companies, which is looking at adjacencies and smart maintenance and managing the value chain more than just lubricants. So it's getting away from products to more services. That's what we're looking at.
Thank you. Was your question specific to Castrol India? Was it specific to Castrol India? Or was it?
Yeah, specifically for Castrol, because Castrol is a
Castrol India.
Yeah, it's a rich company. We have lots
Yeah, in which case...
we have never thought about the diversification. Now we are starting thinking about something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a Castrol company. If you go back 20 years back, we have plenty of funds with us. We have reserves with us. Why we never thought about the diversification apart from lubricant? My question was that.
Yeah.
So, what means to earn the profit is not simply lubricant, because it's not growing too much and the investor wants money to be built up in another 3 months, 4 months. They want return immediately. They don't wait that another 10 years to come and 5 years. Yeah. That's the problem.
I think Mandir answered it. I'll just add two things. One is, if you look at Castrol India, in the last 18 years, we returned 11% shareholder value, which is 50% higher than the average rate. So there is one piece, which is Castrol is a solid company, Castrol India, in terms of governance, in terms of cash generation, in terms of growth. Second piece is, I think there is a quarter-on-quarter performance that we need to display, which is, I think we need to convince the external environment that we can grow volume ahead of the market and recover input cost increases. So this is what Mandy is alluding to as well, in terms of no matter what the environment is, we can display that the strength of the brand recovers the cost increases as well as beat the market in terms of growth. Now, they're not looking for triple growth. It will be great if we do that, but we already sizable and we need to grow ahead of the market, which is significant. And the third piece is what Mandy is talking about, is to start betting on some beyond lubricants in terms of stretching the brand, and what are some of the exciting stuff. If you noticed last week, as soon as we announced the Mahindra deal, the share prices went up. So they're looking for fundamental revenue models, and I think there is something that we need to do as a team, is to change the story, spin the story, so that we get out of this quarterly cycle and be hanged every quarter by the volume or the performance that we display, to changing the story to focus on strategic milestones. We never shared with the external world what we think about the next 2-3 years. And maybe that's the story that we need to say, saying that this is the future, these are the input drivers, and measure us against the input drivers, rather than did we recover the 1 CPL increase last week against last year, which is not the story. The story is, if you look at long-term, Castrol India delivers ahead of the market. It's just that I think we need to renew that strategic outlook and give them some excitement. Otherwise, they're saying lubricant doesn't have a future. And if you've seen the market, whoever is in the market, our competitors as well, they've been declining the last few weeks.
Good questions. Any other questions?
There are some live questions.
Okay.
Hi Mandir, can you please throw some light on the recent email you shared in terms of the progress of the growth strategy, as you mentioned that some aspects were not working and hence needed more deliberations?
Great, thank you for that. Yeah, for those who don't know, I did send a note out a couple of weeks back, which was my sort of reflections when I look on what we promised to do maybe 2 years ago, if I remember correctly, is that we still, when I talk to people, we're still very complex as an organization. I think our decision making is still taking a long time, okay? And again, we talked very briefly this morning, was that, the baseline is being set by consumers, basically, and the way companies respond to that. So whether it's, Amazon, as I said, or Alibaba, these sort of guys, they're setting the new standard. Okay, so you order something, it's so seamless. Okay, one click, product arrives in your house. You can have it tomorrow, you can have it in a week, in a month, you decide. That is, you know, where we need to start looking at us. And I think we still have multiple touch points. You know, I think Janta will talk about it in supply chain, for example. There's still workarounds, maybe less in India than in other markets, but we're clunky. Okay, if you understand that expression, it's still, we need to get much smoother, and we need to get to a world of, you know, no touch points for certain sort of transactions. And I think also for me, we haven't simplified or reduced activity to the level I expected us to get to. You know, okay, and I'm looking at it at myself first of all, you know, and it starts with me and saying, what am I not doing? What aspect of my leadership is not coming through, which is allowing us to do that? So that's what I was trying to say in that email, is that I want to reduce the number of touch points for decision making, make it much faster, less handoff, so you don't have to go through multiple points to make things happen. And I also feel that I think I've always talked about this. You know, in fact, I think Ram and I have been working together since 2002, and back in 2003 we introduced this country leadership model, which I think we now need to swing the pendulum a bit more towards country leadership teams taking ownership of their destiny. So with that accountability, there is responsibility, okay? And I think we need to give leadership teams the space to make decisions quicker, because that's been driven by the environment for us. And so that's what I was saying on the note. I think we have some more ways to go in terms of getting activity out, but people are working 100% of the time, okay? And one of the other alarming points for me was that particularly in some markets, not everywhere, you know, Rajiv and Mubin tell me that it's perfect in India in terms of prospecting and you know, looking at new opportunities. So I'm in a good place on that. But in some markets we're not. Okay, some of the salespeople are spending too much time on sorting out issues and customer complaints and lack of products and invoices. And if you're doing that, you're not really looking at prospects and new opportunities. So Ram and I both sit on the same governance board for that customer excellence piece, and we've got to create the space for frontline customer-facing people, whether it's sales or marketing or supply chain or finance, whoever those people are, to have the space to go and spend some more time with the customer. And I'm disappointed in where we are in a number of markets, and I was expecting us to be in a much better place. So you'll hear more about that over the next few weeks. I want to create more space for, you know, country leadership teams to have a greater say in what happens and them to be held accountable for their decisions. There's one more here, and then we'll go back.
We have another one, two of them online.
Okay, you go for that, and then we'll come back to this young man up here.
How do you see sustainability or green product playing a key role in our business strategy?
Great. Let me start on that, and I'll get Ram to further add to it. Is that I was chatting to I don't think you guys know Rachel. She sends it every Friday. She puts together all the I forgot Rachel's surname. Bradley. Okay, we'll have to send you guys the email. She sends an email every Friday with every article on sustainability that's been published that week. Okay, she's not on the call, so I can say this, is that I don't get to read them all. Okay, because there's far too many of them for my time and my brain, I think. But I pick out some really great ones in there. It's just everything that's happening. So I sat down with her and Vivek a few weeks back. Ram wasn't there. I think I don't know where you were traveling. And I said to him, look, what's our position on sustainability, but how do we go on the front foot? And the fact that we are not integrated is an advantage for us when it comes to sort of on the sustainability agenda. So Rachel and Vivek have been tasked before, and again, Bettina's not here today. She's elsewhere sorting some other things out. But I think it might be even end of October. They have to come back with the first pass strategy for lubricants around our sustainability agenda. How do we want to play into that? I think it's really exciting. I think we have a great opportunity to be on the front foot, and whether it's sort of not just products, but also sort of recycling services and stuff. How do we get into that sustainability agenda? So they're working all this up. It's great to have Rachel's full time on this agenda for us, and I think it's really exciting. And I'm hoping that we will have it by the year end. So they want to roll out next year into his Castrol sustainability agenda. This, how do we play into it, and how do we get competitive advantage through sustainability? That's the exam question that they're answering. Ram, did you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, a couple of points. Yeah. I think if you look at sustainability, who has a question?
It's online.
Online, okay. So if you look at sustainability, the primary drivers are legislation, which is driving customers to change their operations. And so they are demanding that from us. So let's say OEMs, they want to reduce CO2. So that is sustainability. So they're asking us to give products which reduce CO2. That's how it flows. Second is the consumer side. On the consumer side, the big trends are the circular economy, which is all about recycling. And the second thing is about the whole avoidance of single-use plastics. So these are big trends happening. And so what we are thinking as Castrol is, in the strategy paper which we are expected to go to Mandir with, is look at our operations. In our operations, how can we reduce the carbon footprint? So that will most probably be starting with the area of supply chain and packaging. These are the two areas we'll be looking at very aggressively on sustainability. Then our products to our customers. So we are looking at re-refined, recycled products. We have one product in India, and expanding that footprint into new technology products. And then biosynthetic and bio products. That would be the second level of activities. Third is about offers. So we are now going to zero carbon offers for our franchise workshops. We've got big customers in super groups in Europe and in Mexico and China who have bought our zero carbon package, which means they can go and tell their consumers that my workshop is carbon neutral. So we are doing a lot of these, and we are putting them together to write the sustainability strategy. And then it will come with, okay, what is the benefit case? Where is the money? Okay, and where is the brand equity on this? And we have to do some thinking on that, and then go back to Mandir for investment to drive all this in terms of the next 5 to 10 years. That's what we are doing on sustainability.
Yeah, it is great to hear that we are winning in some of the markets like new products or in the new channels or getting the new OEM approvals in Mahindra and all. At the same time, I see that in India, still a lot of construction activities are going on, and we always say that India is yet to be built. But in our focus of that segment, while we see some of the focus in the industrial, we don't see any focus in the OEM development for the off-road equipments. Apart from JCB in last 10-12 years of my Castrol tenure, I don't see any new approvals coming in. So is it an area that where we have chosen not to play, or is it something that is yet to come? Just want a clarity on that. Thank you.
Thanks. I don't know what I'm going to say is going to be upsetting anybody, but if you look at the commercial vehicle strategy in the new growth strategy, our focus will be on on-road. Okay. In on-road, we are looking at owner drivers. We are looking at micro LCVs and LCVs, and some key OEMs on the on-road side. Okay, that would be the focus areas. However, there are a couple of exceptions to the focus areas because we have material positions. One is mining in Australia and off-road in India. Okay, so from a business development point of view, we'll continue to work on this. Okay. But when you start competing for resources on technology development, approvals, OEM activity, okay, even in our focus areas, we are forced to prioritize. So when you think of less than focus areas, for example, if you ask me, are you going to go for a Caterpillar approval? The answer is no. Okay. So because we don't have the resources to do it, because our strategy is very clear where we are going to be focused on. So the answer is yes, in the bargain, we will miss out on a few opportunities in terms of markets which are hugely going through a construction boom if it is dependent on OEM approvals. But if it is dependent on strong brand, strong route to market, good product quality, we can win even those markets. So, but India, business development on off-road, of course we will support. Mining in Australia will support. Rest of the world, it will be only on-road focus.
There's one question there.
Yeah, my question is around IWS and digital. Both are in the growth strategy that you've laid out. How are we doing as a pace? So when we see our India performance, we see a lot of IWSs and the new apps, etc. going on. But the growth strategy really talks about the digital platform for service. So how soon do you see that coming in action? Because what is the pace? How do you look at it?
Good question, Aditya. I think we are talking about the independent workshops digital play. Physically, we are okay because we have got 9,000 or 10,000 car branded workshops across the world, and bikes, I have lost count. Okay, there are lots of them. So, but on the digital side, we have some very cool products coming in India, and we were working on building a platform for maintenance and service. That initiative we launched in Malaysia, Turkey and Spain, and when we were upgrading the product, we changed the platform and we failed. Okay, the product didn't go well. So we're now redoing the whole thing with the help of our downstream digital team, and that I expect the product to be ready in about 6 months' time. Okay. Because product is not very difficult to do. The question is, who is interested in taking it to market, okay, with a committed investment in terms of getting consumers in and salespeople to go and knock on the workshop doors for enrollment. That's the challenge. So we are working that through. Product will be ready quite quickly. Then if for example, India, after Omer and the CLT get through it, are willing to take it to market, we should have something ready in 6 to 9 months maximum.
Online. Are there any projects from InnoVentures which are close to being commercialized?
I'm just for lubricants. Is that what?
I can ask.
I think well, InnoVentures is now part of downstream, and if you remember, Roy Williamson, who headed that up, is now heading up the advanced sort of mobility unit for downstream. If you remember, Onyx, which was the predictive maintenance piece for wind sector, which a guy called Bruce Hall heads that up, and so we took a share in that one. They're doing a good job. They're doing a good job in wind, but also they've helped in the mining sector to win some contracts particularly in Australia. And they're also helping in the US as well, so that's one that we've taken up. Nexcel, we continue to make good progress. Again, there's a couple of confidential things happening there which we can't talk about, unfortunately, just yet, but we're making good progress with a number of OEMs on the Nexcel. And then we've taken we placed some, in the whole InnoVentures piece, it's going to be about collaboration going forward. Okay, nobody really wants, because you don't know how things are going to happen, nobody wants to put all the money themselves. So we've invested small amounts, small amounts is several $1 million in different plays, which we talked this morning. Some of them is around sort of smart maintenance, looking at the whole sort of workshop ecosystem. Some of them now in some markets in Western Europe and the US, you're seeing sort of home maintenance for vehicles, both cars and bikes, but also fuel deliveries to home locations and work locations. So, and that that stuff's going out there. So we're investing. We've got a few investments, and for Ram, we use some from the New Energy Frontiers budget, which Lamarck sort of looks after. We've got some money from there, and then the other one, which again, I'll just give you the highlight, again, it's confidential, is that we're just spending $25 million in sort of next generation biosynthetic lubricants. But that's for just people on this call, all 600 of you, don't tell anybody else. But it's great progress. I think in technology we make some great progress on that area. Any others online?
Yeah, one last one. Though change is the only constant, how do we ensure we keep people engaged, bringing belongingness, and deliver against these changes?
Yeah, whoever asked that question, I'd like them to answer that one, if they could, because there's many things that keep me awake at night. I can assure you. This is one of them, and it's this balance between. One thing for me is we've got to take the terminology of change. On the whole, if you ask somebody what does change mean, they'll normally say sort of restructuring or that sort of stuff. I think we've got to get to a place where change is constant. It's happening around us. You're getting a lot of disruption in the industry, and not just our industry. Look at what sort of Airbnb has done to the hotel industry. It's just unbelievable. I don't know how prevalent it is in India, but I'll tell you, in Europe, my kids will only ever use Airbnb. And then things what Uber and these guys are doing as well. They're just changing the paradigm. And for me, we've got to get to a place where change is seen as progression. It's seen as an opportunity. It's seen as a sort of a kick on us to not be complacent, and I think we've got to get into that mindset. Is that it's fine. There's change. It's how do we embrace it? How do we sort of use it to, get even stronger as an organization? So, within that, I think that's where this whole element of how do you can't separate energizing the organization from change. You guys have done it. I think you've done it in India. You've shown how you're going to have change. You look at what's happening in your marketplace, and you manage to energize the organization. So it's this fine balance of, this is where the whole leadership team comes into it, is that, how do you go into that problem statement? How do you take it such that, there are opportunities for us as a business out of that? And I think that's one of the things I think a lot about, is we've got to move away from change being a negative concept to change being something that is just another variable in our sort of portfolio. We good? Anybody want the last question?
There's one?
Is it about how they're going to grow volume in India next year?
How do we see COGS environment next 6 months?
Next 6 months? Yeah. Janto, what's your thoughts on that? Look, from a global perspective, I don't know what the oil price is today, probably 83, something like that. And yesterday I sat in, and Omar did as well. There's a big conference at the Taj at the minute, so you had the, there's a great photo of Omar Dorman, which I'm sure he will circulate. So I'm sitting on one side, we're on the front row of this energy presentation. You have, on one seat is the Indian Energy Minister. Pradhan is sitting there. Next to him is the Energy Minister from Saudi Arabia, wasn't it? Abu Dhabi guy. Then you have from Bob Dudley next to him. The only one who's missing was the guy who presented, which was Saudi Aramco chairman and the Energy Minister from Saudi, who just when he finished he moved, otherwise he would have sitting next to him. And then right behind them is Omar Dorman. I said this is a succession planning sort of going forward. I was a long way away, in the background. I was irrelevant to it. They wanted the real high players near each other. But the interesting, the Saudi minister, he talked and we listened to him, and I thought he was really good. And he was very measured. And one thing he was saying was that, some of the interventions that Saudi have made, if they hadn't made those in terms of having more infrastructure to store some of the energy products, oil price would be, he said 3 digits, he said it would be in 3 digits now. Because it's a combination of factors. You have geopolitical risk. You see the comments that very learned brain in the US makes, they lead to certain, reactions. Because of that, in the Middle East, it leads to certain issues on it. At the same time, because of that, you'll have some other issues, some of the, not that's the geopolitical, but then you'll get other issues in markets, like Venezuela is going through a very tough time at the minute. You look at and they're big producers. Nigeria is going through a tough time at the minute. If you look at the Argentinian sort of economy in Brazil, so these factors all play into what could happen, to the oil price, and that's why. And then on top of that, you have the shale production as well. As the oil price goes up, it makes it even easier, more profitable for those things. So there's a number of factors that could impact it. So our view, and I think Bob talked about it when he went up there, is that ideally it's on the top end of where you really want, but then also it makes it difficult for consumers. If you look at it from a consumer perspective, and especially in India, you balance that up with the forex impact as well. So for the consumer, they'll end up then buying less fuel. In our case, they may maybe service their cars a bit less frequently. Those sort of things all impact on the sort of the life cycle of the product. So the thought was, it's probably a little bit higher than where it needs to be today. But some analysts will say it'll go up to $100, potentially, depending on what happens in the Middle East and some of the politics are involved. Others think it should be more in the sort of $60 to $70 sort of range. There's other than the geopolitics, there's no other reason why it should be where it is. That's what's causing it. So you do sometimes see these big shifts. You saw the BP share price last week sort of touched £6, 601 at one stage, and now it's dropped back to, I don't know what it is today, 550 plus or something like that. So it's hard to predict. If we knew that, then we would sort of probably be making more money than we are today. But I think, I don't know, we're based it at $70 oil is what we based our forecast at the minute for next year at, and then we'll just have to see how they respond. But it's hard to tell. There's so many factors that come into play between the Middle East, Russia, US, and then South America. So in a long way, that's saying I have no idea. Okay. But we'll manage it. We'll manage it. Hopefully it's not as variable as it has been the last couple of years. I mean, it's been shifting quite a lot on it.
Mandir, I know that there's a lot of questions still, and thank you for that interesting and engaging session. I think there's a lot that we want to learn and for you to answer. There are lots of areas that we want to go into, but I think in the interest of time, I know that we have another engagement, so I need to bring it to a close with your permission. Thank you for the encouraging words, both to you and to Ram. I think and on behalf of the entire 600 people or whoever is on the call, I think we give you the assurance of our continued commitment to continue leaving no stones unturned, as we said this morning, and to ensure that we deliver on our promises and our growth aspirations for India, and support and contribute to the SPU growth in any way, shape or form we can. As we said this morning, we're not going to be the victims of the environment, and we'll continue responding in a positive way and find a way of making it happen. So that's the theme that we follow. We've been following for the last years, and that's not going to change no matter what the environment does to us. So with that, please put your hands together for Mandir and Ram. Thank you. And my big thanks to the Northern team for hosting us, and I hope you found it engaging and interesting. and hopefully we will continue having these meetings in different parts of India from now on. So with that...
No, I look forward to it. I think the next one's going to be in Amritsar, okay? We're going to go start, you're going further north. But look, great to be here. And as Omar said, you guys are doing it. My last message would be keep doing what you're doing, okay? You guys are doing a super job. And it's not just Omar and the leadership team. Every single one of you has an impact on our business. Every single one of you is doing a super job. So keep doing what you're doing. I'll try and get here again. I will be here next year. I'll guarantee you that. I'll be here next year, at least once. And I look forward to seeing your progress. You know, the CLT have put forward a very ambitious plan for next year, which I fully endorse. No, good. Thank you very much. Lovely to be here. Nice to be in Delhi. And hopefully next year we'll go a bit further north, okay? Good stuff. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. And we actually officially invite you to our national conference, which is going to be in February.
In Amritsar, or where is it?
That's a surprise.
Yeah.
But it's going to be in India.
Okay, great. Well, I won't commit to that just yet. It all depends on agendas and stuff like that. But if we can, it'd be nice to sort of get out it's in February sometime, is it? Yeah, if you just tell Anne well in advance, we'll see what we can do. But look, thank you very much, and thanks for coming down to you guys as well. Really appreciate it, yeah? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.